Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to the One Bitcoin Show. Today is July the 23rd, 2020. Strong hand, long-term thinking, conviction, one day closer to an all-time high, deferral of gratification. This lady knows about deferral of gratification. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin in motion. And hey, guys, offended by selling, of course. Okay, hello, my elite friends. You got questions, I got answers. You type in the questions, BitcoinMeister, or do a super chat. You know how it goes. Hello, my defiant radicals. We got a fellow defiant radical on here today. This is Miss Hodl. You know I don't like to say the word hodl. Miss Hold. It's Justine. Justine is known. She's known in Twitter land. She's known in Steemit land. So we're gonna actually start off with that. So I just want to point out that I met Justine 2 weeks ago online. Bitcoin Magazine got a bunch of people together for their drinks. I don't know, whatever the show is called. You pretend like you're drinking, or you really drink, and you talk about Bitcoin. And I went on that show. I was in motion. I'm like, I'm going to be proactive here. I need to find more people for the This Week in Bitcoin show who aren't scared of current events and like Bitcoin. And sure enough, there were actually some guys on the show that I mean, Christian, obviously, he's been on the show before. Some of the other dudes have been on the show, but I met quite a few people. But Justine can't be on the This Week in Bitcoin show. She's always busy on Friday. So I also like to do Who's Who in Bitcoin here. Who's Who in Bitcoin? Justine, we're doing a show just on a Thursday. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. is This Week in Bitcoin, and we got someone who was on that show. So don't let those algorithms tell you who to meet, okay, on Twitter and everything like that. I went on that show. I figured it out for myself. I looked up these darn people, found them myself. Now she's on the show. Now you see her. Okay, so Justine, you've got an amazing freaking story because you got into cryptocurrency from Steemit. Your first cryptocurrency you held was Steem, not Bitcoin, from what I gathered. So yep. So welcome to the show.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was really good to meet you on that show, and I'm glad we could work something out here because Fridays are just insane for me. So thanks for making time for me.
No, of course. So tell us about the journey. You knew about Bitcoin, but you got into Steemit.
Yeah, so we kind of talked about that before, is that there's some altcoins that sort of play like an on-ramp role to Bitcoin. So for me personally, it was more, I was already into the self-sovereign aspects, very much self-reliant, working towards being as non-reliant on outside sources as humanly possible. So I heard about Bitcoin in, I think, early 2016, and it made sense to me on a financial level. Like there's this money, right, that can't be controlled by the Fed, that can't be controlled by centralized banks. Like that was huge for me. I was stacking gold and silver at the time, and it made sense on that aspect. And then I tried to get into it, and I looked into it, and there were just so many things that didn't make sense to me and that were way over my head, and I just didn't feel comfortable investing at that point. And so then a little time went by, and something came up about Steemit. I think it was on the Corbett report, James Corbett, alternative news source. He was talking about how he was posting his content on there, and it was sort of a way to have a little more control over your content. You couldn't get deplatformed. It was exposing you to cryptocurrencies. So it was a really there was nothing that could happen. I didn't have to throw money at it. I could just jump on and start posting content. And so I was like, oh, I'll try it. Why not? And so that's how I got involved in cryptocurrency. And then I started learning all these things that when I looked at Bitcoin made no sense to me. I didn't know what keys were. I didn't know what, these transactions were. I didn't know how to do any of this. And it was my playground, and started sort of getting involved in that. And then after sort of realizing, after trying to get involved and building things, that it wasn't the financial revolution I was looking for. It wasn't another Bitcoin. I went back to Bitcoin, and it all made sense to me. And so all of these things that had been really confusing before now clicked, and I invested in Bitcoin. And then just sort of saw Steemit as being a possible, like you said, on-ramp to Bitcoin. That was my mission for a long time, was, oh my God, it could bring so many people in that wouldn't have seen it before. And, I've continued to grow. my views on altcoins are a little bit different now, but that's how I got here. And I'm not sure without it if I would be here. So that's something that I like to keep in mind and consider when there's these large debates going on. But that's how I'm here.
Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin you discovered. But I gotta say, when I talked about, I got on the Steemit in 2016, and I thought, yes, this is the way to on-ramp people through social media. We need an easy social media, comfortable way to get people into cryptocurrency. And I thought, I hoped that Steemit would be the Facebook of cryptocurrency. Who knows what I said back then? It didn't end up that way. But I am really glad to hear that's how you did get it on the Bitcoin. At least one person got into Bitcoin because of Steemit. And
many did. There's a lot of people like me that are now, they're on Hive now, Steem sort of, that's the whole thing, but Hive. And so there's a lot of people in that community that was their way into Bitcoin. I mean, I've seen it. It worked. The issue is when when you don't learn the difference and then you see this as the new Bitcoin and you're sort of going, there needs to be education that is very clear on what it is and what Bitcoin is and the differences, because some people do get stuck. They do. We've seen it. But it's worked for a lot of people as an on-ramp, for sure.
Yeah, well, I'll say with the Steem, I mean, they and the Hive, they print a lot of it, and then people buy it, even though they can get it for free just by posting on the site. And that's a huge difference between Bitcoin and Steem. I mean, the limited supply. But I mean, there was a time of euphoria around Steem before you got into it. I mean, there were people that thought it was going to be the next Bitcoin. There's always the altcoin flavor of the month. It definitely was the altcoin flavor of the month. I guess in the summer of 2016. I don't know. Do you have though any ideas? And this is kind of putting me in the spot a little bit here. How to get newbies through social media into Bitcoin? Can there be a better version of Steemit or Hive?
I had this moment. So when I first got back into Bitcoin, in my mind, it was, we need to put them together. We need to use the social aspects of platforms like Steem or Hive and the fast transactions and the things that you could do socially on it, and somehow incorporate Bitcoin into it to really make that on-ramp work. Because, my opinion on altcoins is different than a lot of people's. I think it can play social roles and like gaming aspects and points and things. I don't personally think it's money. That's my own opinion. I'll get heat on both sides for saying that, but whatever. But I do think that there's something there as an on-ramp. So then it was, how do I put these two together? So my thought was, well, what if we do like Bitcoin tipping and sort of do away with like the rewards inflation base, which is just constant printing? Like, how do we incorporate Bitcoin into this so people understand that's the money? And I mean, it's doable. A lot of sites you can tip in Bitcoin, but then you start to think about like, do you need a blockchain for social aspects? Like, no. Is that even necessary? So it really is just the aspect for me, and I know it's different for a lot of people, of just how do we incorporate that into Bitcoin when you don't really need a blockchain for the social thing. But hey, incorporating Bitcoin into a social aspect or cryptocurrencies is pretty powerful, and it exposes people to it. And I think when you can earn instead of having to just throw your money at something, that opens the door for a lot of people who maybe don't feel confident enough to just invest. But once they start earning it, they understand, and then they start purchasing and investing, which now we do have ways that you can earn Bitcoin. So that's cool. So I think that there's a lot of things that are developing currently. I do think there's a niche there. I do think that there's a way to onboard people that way. If it's the only way to onboard people, not really. I mean, I think Bitcoin's the financial revolution. And I think for some people, they just get stuck on the social thing and they're earning and they're selling it. And that's cool. But if we're wanting to onboard people to the financial revolution, is social the best way to do that? Or is it through really helpful educational content and making it more approachable overall? So that's my thought. Is I do know, as a noob who had a hard time getting into it, that there is still a disconnect. I've seen it. But I do think we're improving just in the time that, the few years that I've been here. And what I saw then versus what I see now.
Yeah, user experience is getting better for Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. It's still, it still could be intimidating with all the numbers. My mom still can't use it. We can't. A lot of progress can be made. Hey, I want to remind everyone, Justine's, her social media information is below. Miss Hoddle on Twitter. You can follow her over there. Pound that freaking like button, people. If you like having a random guest on a random Thursday here, you never know what you're going to get. You do know you get a new show here every day. You said you were a gold and silver person beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of freaked me out. How many young ladies were there with you in gold? Because most of the dudes are like 85-year-old guys, so that must have been
Right.
kind of cool.
I mean, there's a whole there's this whole niche of young people who are trying to live off the land and kind of get back to their roots and this libertarian views. Like Ron Paul really set off a lot of young people, in my opinion, and gold and silver was the way to have something that wasn't controlled by the Fed. You know, like before Bitcoin, I'm not a fan of the Fed. I'm not a fan of central banks. And so gold and silver was the savings. That was my savings. And so when people bash gold and silver, I'm still like, well, there's still, I mean, like, if I have gold, I can go buy, a tractor from my neighbor who's 85. He may not take the Bitcoin I have, like, there's still a possibility if shit gets crazy that, okay, but there's so many different aspects of Bitcoin that clearly are superior to metal. But yeah, I was into metal beforehand, and maybe that's why it clicked so much, that I already had these mindsets of like hard money and like decentralized money and things people couldn't print and all of these aspects. So for Bitcoin, like, it just clicked. It was just the technical aspects that it was over my head.
So to get the Ron Paulites in away from, because some of them are still stuck on gold, definitely. And there's I think they're into the habit of holding their gold. I call it they're golden holders. They could easily be Bitcoin holders. So
yeah,
I mean, maybe it'll take some prominent gold people to speak up. Some more prominent gold people. What do you, now? We'll get it. Let's get into. Let's segue into social media drama, but keep it on a gold level too. What do you think about Peter Schiff?
I used to listen to Peter Schiff. Like that was somebody who was on my, list of people I was listening to at the time. I didn't agree with everything he said, but like, he was someone that I listened to. I think he has he's on point with some of the ideas as far as the government goes, right? Like every time he makes a post about something of the Fed printing more money and why this is bad, I'm like, yeah, you're right. you're spot on there. But just the conclusion of Bitcoin, I think he's just in denial. But let's be honest here, he makes a lot of money in what he does and selling what he does. And even when I was into gold and silver, I was not a fan of you're not holding your own gold. Like gold notes aren't gold. If you're not holding it, it's not yours, not your keys, not your coins, right? Like like he has something to lose to say, oh, actually this technology is superior. I do think it's harder for a certain generation, and I know that may not be very nice, but I think it's hard when they're not involved in the tech scene and they don't understand it. It's like, well, how is this computer going to keep my money safe? That's silly. Like, I need to hold it. This computer, there's things that can happen. My stepfather's the same way. He barely uses a cell phone, and the idea of money being held on some sort of digital level, he just doesn't, it can't compute to him, but he barely uses email. So it's like, there's just so many barriers there that I think we're dealing with. I do wish that Peter Schiff was a little bit more open to discuss it and not so egotistical and so unintelligent with his takes on Bitcoin. But I do think it's sort of a generational thing. I do think there's a lot of new technology that's hard for some of them to grasp. They get hard money though. They get that. So if they could just get the other part, they'd be set.
His unintelligent takes are annoying because he's an intelligent man and he's doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
When Bitcoin, when we had the Twitter hack, he said, well, since there's a Twitter hack that involves Bitcoin, maybe Bitcoin could be hacked. That's insanity. It's just, right. It's the fear that, yeah, he knows how to take advantage of people's fear, and we'll talk about that on a general level. Let's talk about though crypto Twitter. You do get caught up in some of the drama there, I think. Do you use it though as a tool of education? It can be so if you follow the right people and you check out their feeds and you don't let Twitter tell you what to do, you can learn a lot. But tell us your experience on and again, and the funny thing, guys, if you go to her crypto Twitter, this is how silly the algorithms are. Okay, it'll show the other recommended people will be like they'll all be women. They'll be Wendy the trader. Wendy the trader is a very nice lady. I met her in LA actually, but she's not. The only thing in common is like woman Bitcoin. And so what's your take on the Twitter algorithms, on crypto Twitter, etc.?
Well, so first of all, like I think a lot of people have plans for their Twitter. Like they have these goals and it's a tool for them personally. I just need to say that I suck at that. I'm not calculated at all. I think Twitter is really fun. If it stops being fun, I'll stop using it. I think Bitcoin Twitter has been extremely educational for me. Not only meeting people that I've learned a lot from, but just like you said, there's so much amazing content and people to follow and just like falling down the rabbit hole. So that's what it is for me. On the other hand, I just say what I think. I'm opinionated. I think our society is not in a good place. And I think there's a lot of individuals who are pushing things that I think affect society as a whole, and I speak up about it. But no, I don't really take it too seriously, if that makes sense. Like I'm not building a brand. I'm just being me. But that has led to some drama, yes. Sometimes I wish I had a little better of a filter, you know? Sometimes I have to consider what is worth spending my time on and what's not. But I also think it's really great to have discussions with people who see the world completely differently than you. So Twitter is an amazing tool for that. I follow really amazing people, and I'm glad to stumble into conversations that question what I think. Like that's what I thrive on. As far as the algorithms and like you said, you know, I love Wendy. She's a sweetie. But yeah, we don't really have a lot of common as far as what we're producing, right, content-wise. So it is kind of weird that those two would be recommended. And like I told you before, what I get as far as recommendations are the influencers, the female influencers. It's like Twitter's constantly telling me I'm not following enough female influencers, and it's like I don't have anything in common with them. Like, do you? Like, good for you, but why? Like, just because they're a female and say crypto does not mean that, you know, it's something I want to see. So I don't know, algorithms are really weird. I think even when you do follow good people, it's really controlling who you can see and who you don't see. Like there's times where I'll think about this really great individual I followed. I'm like, man, they haven't been posting. And I go and look and well, they just haven't been showing up in my feed. So it is weird, the algorithms. The female thing, I've taken some heat on my comments on females in the space. So I'll try to steer clear of that. But yeah, I think the algorithms are weird. But as far as general, I love Bitcoin Twitter. I think it's great. I've met amazing people who are like friends in real life now. I think that in 2016, when I was kind of looking into Bitcoin, if I would have stumbled around the right people on Twitter, I didn't have Twitter at that time, then maybe I could have fallen into the right crowd to be like, hey, what is this? And I'm confused about this, because people will answer questions. So I think it's a really great tool for adoption and for onboarding, but it's a social platform, and there's good and bad that come with that. So I'm just here being me, saying what I think and having good conversations with people. So I enjoy it.
That's what we need in this world. I say, be a unique beast. You're a unique beast. Keep on being a unique beast. Keep on telling the truth, because in today's world, there's a lot of social pressure not to tell the truth, and people are silent. So coming from your freedom background, your Ron Paul background, you get into Bitcoin. You follow all these cool Bitcoiners on Twitter, and then all of a sudden, at the beginning of this year, or the first 3 months of the year, second month of the year, whenever it happened. What do you think about some of these Bitcoin people that all of a sudden reveal their government compliant side to what's going on socially here? To me, it was a big shock. But how about to you?
It was shocking. It was to me, and I remember making a tweet about it. Like, wow, I thought people in this space were like freedom-loving, libertarian, ANCAP, like, and it turns out some of you guys are just socialist state lovers. Like, what the hell? So I did have that moment too of like, what? But you know, you have to have this moment of individual freedom. And it's like, okay, well, to each their own. You know, this is sort of what I have to remind myself often is like, all right, well, as long as you're not infringing on me, like you do you. That's totally cool. And there's some things that I don't agree with people on, but as long as they're not hitting me over the head with it, that's fine. Like, I'm okay with that. I do understand, like, when it comes to scare tactic, which is what our government is amazing at, it really affects people in very emotional ways. And there was a lot of fear tactic happening and still happening. And so I do think it's understandable in a way for people to respond in an emotional way and then maybe step back and their logic sort of comes forward and maybe they change their mind. Because I did see that. I saw a lot of people come out and be like heavy, like government needs to force people to be in their homes and we have to shut this down. I'm like, whoa, like, hold on a second, what? And so now it's sort of like they've calmed down and they can see, okay, well, there is an issue, but maybe that's a little too far. So I think that's part of learning. I just think it's dangerous. That can be very dangerous because when someone's just willing to, at the first sight of danger, right, of like fear, take all my rights, take my neighbor's rights, just help me and save me. That's dangerous. And that's not the world I want to live in. So I think it is important when that's happening to be like, wait, hold on. Like, how about this? Like, there's things we could do that aren't quite that extreme. And let's remind ourselves of why that could be very terrible. So that was interesting. It was a really interesting time, but on the reverse, like there were so many people who were so intelligent in the space giving advice on what was going to be occurring that like in February, I was stocked up and ready and, you know, ready for anything that happened. I'm generally kind of stocked up, but like I felt like it was sort of a early warning that was really beneficial when the rest of the world was still saying, oh, it's nothing, you're fine, continue on with your business. And then, you know, a month later, a few weeks later, there's no toilet paper and there's no masks and there's no food on the shelves, you know, like, so it was nice to have at least a group of individuals who were sort of saying what I was thinking, you know, and like confirming, oh, okay, this could get bad. You should prepare. So I'm thankful for that, but it was interesting to see some of the different views come out that I didn't expect at all. That was interesting.
Personal responsibility is the new counterculture, people.
Yes.
You got to don't rely on others. Don't rely on others and then end up freaking scared out of your wits because you didn't think about the situation that was going to happen here. So you're definitely a long-term thinker, and you've talked about deferral of gratification, and you've said a few times, you're not in it for the money, you're in it for the revolution and everything. So you're not a traitor to say the least.
I'm not. I'm a horrible, like, I don't even look at the price. I'm so bad. Like, I'm such a long-term holder that somebody will be like, whoa, such and such. I'm like, oh, what's the price? Like, what's happening right now? I haven't even looked. Because yeah, I mean, I buy often and stack, and I try to keep, you know, like if I see the price drop, I stack heavier than normal, but generally it's not something I'm really paying attention to. Yeah, not even a little bit of a trigger.
Yeah, I don't have it. Like we could have a show today. We could have a show today, and everyone would love it too. If you and I just spent an hour talking about Bitcoin just went over 9,600 for the first time in X, which it did for all you fiat freaks out there. But no, that's you got to take it. Then that just don't worry about it every darn second of the day and everything. Now, with all this way of thinking about Bitcoin in mind. And reminding everyone that you came to Bitcoin on your own. No one reached out to you and said, oh, we need more females in Bitcoin. Now, do you think more females will come to Bitcoin on their own? I have no problem with individuals like creating organizations, reaching out to women. I mean, compete, don't complain. But to guilt and shame other people for not, that's another story. So how do you see the female progression going here, since Twitter likes to suggest other females? Well, let's talk female here.
I am not a fan of the guilt and pressure. I'm not a fan of the idea of like, we need more women here. You people need to be sure you're getting representation of females on your pod. Like fucking bullshit. Sorry that I wasn't supposed to cuss, but it's horrible. It's horrible. I think that it's a focus on crap, like focus on actions, focus on intellect, stop focusing on gender. It's the very opposite of what we should be doing. So it's actually something I'm triggered on, clearly. For me personally, I think that women are just less likely to jump into something in a financial sector that has a large risk. They need to feel more comfortable. Now, of course, that doesn't go for all women. Like, we have a ton of women here. We have women building, we have women coding, we have women traders. Like, there are so many more women here than people realize. But just because they're not an influencer face doesn't mean they're not here. There's hundreds, even in our small little community. Like, there's so many really intelligent women. And I think that it's just different. Like, in the financial and the tech world, it is male heavy, it's male dominant. So it's not shocking that Bitcoin in its early stages is also male dominant. I don't think that, I mean, this is going to sound rude. I think that there's a way that women learn, some women, that is maybe needs to be broken down a little bit for them. I'm personally in that area. I think there's men in that area though too. And then there's women who, like I said, are, you know, coding freaking Lightning, you know, or building Lightning, or and coding for Bitcoin Core. Like, there's so many women who are clearly not in that same boat, but maybe it's a more regular thing that we need to feel a little bit more comfortable in something. And I think that comes from education, and it comes from normalizing the fact that it's okay to ask questions, and it's okay to not know, and it's okay to come in and be like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm interested. Where do I go? And then having content that you can say, oh, well, here's sort of a beginner level intro. And it's not, you know, extremely tech heavy, but it's just educational. I do think that some of this effort to pull women in from different social areas is beneficial. I just don't know, like, what kind of women it's going to get in. And if they see a TikTok video of another woman who's very beautiful and wearing skimpy clothing and singing and then saying Bitcoin, like, does that draw women in? I don't know.
Draws men in. Draws
right. Like, I don't see
in.
that. I don't see that making women go, dang, I got to buy some Bitcoin. And I don't see, like, but I'm kind of a jerk, I guess. And maybe I'm different. I don't know. I don't really see the current efforts to get women in being even remotely directed at women. It's not about women. It's about getting eyes and getting attention and building your brand. And that's fine. Like, that's totally fine, but it's not about women. It's not about attracting more women. I don't know. How do you get more women in? I think it happens. It just is going to happen over time, just like everybody else is going to get here. They're going to start seeing it. They're going to get interested. They're going to start falling down the rabbit hole. Everybody has sort of their own reasons for being here. Sometimes it's just financial gain. So as that number goes up, you know, more people show up. Some people, it's falling down the rabbit hole of, like, financial freedom and independence, and that takes more time. That, you know, that takes a lot more time. And I think we have some amazing resources for that right now. So I think women will get here when they get here, just like everybody else. Yep. I do think that there's a disconnect with people who are interested but are not tech savvy. Yep. And how do they get involved? Because I saw that personally, but I don't think that's gender specific. No, I've met plenty of men who are in the same boat.
It's
so
not.
I'm not really a fan on the focus of women. I love women. Women are amazing. I think they're extremely vital in society and play an important role. I don't understand this. We need more women. I don't know that we do. I think we have some amazing women. Why don't we just keep building and growing, and they'll get here?
Yeah, we need the best of the best. We need who wants to be here. How about that? We don't
right.
want to force anyone to be here. And I do want to stress that both sexes, it can't be technically overwhelming. And for many years, it has been totally technically overwhelming. That's why this social media stuff is good. It can make people feel more comfortable. And if they end up with a Steem first and it gets them into Bitcoin, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I understand that I'm not threatened by altcoins out there. If there's a magical formula to combine altcoins and social media, and that leads the masses to Bitcoin, then great. I'm a long-term thinker. I know what the end goal is to get more people into Bitcoin. If they need to make a little detour that makes them feel more comfortable, fine. I'm out here shouting to the rooftops. Don't buy something that you get for free. Okay. So if people keep on getting Steem or Hive for free by posting stuff, and that gets people into Bitcoin, great. Just don't buy it. Get it for free. Turn it into Bitcoin. And so let's I guess let's talk about some more freedom aspects here of because that when we were talking on the show, on the Bitcoin Magazine show, we were you were talking a lot about freedom. I was impressed by that side of things. We don't get to hear that a lot. So what in terms of financial freedom, I mean, what does Bitcoin mean to you, or has it brought you any yet? Has it changed your life?
So I haven't sold any.
Heck yeah!
So I'm
like button,
yeah,
people.
like right. So for me, it's a long-term thought, and I say I got here late, not really in the big scheme of things, but it's like I didn't get here when it was $200. So it's me selling is silly, like that's just absurd. So for me, it's long-term. So my savings is Bitcoin, and I do spend it. Like I know that's taboo. So I spend and replace. So there's times where if I have the opportunity to spend Bitcoin, I'll look at the price and be like, okay, well, I bought it this. Yeah, selling now either is a benefit to me. I gain a little bit, I get more for what I'm selling, or, I can replace it for this amount. And so that's sort of how I do it. I've bought conference tickets. I've purchased like random stuff with Bitcoin and replace. So for me, it's like, I feel confident in a future, and I have more savings now than I ever have. And I've heard that a lot from individuals, that I have way more in savings than I did before pre-Bitcoin. And so I'm a holder. I mean, that's sort of the joke, is I hodl everything. I'm a long-term sort of financial freedom, self-sovereign. So the financial part was missing. So living off the land, focusing on how to do things myself, focusing on how to be self-reliant was always part of it. And so then it was like this click of Bitcoin fit the financial part of being your own bank. Like holding gold is great, but there were so many things that were sort of missing from that. Gold was just a hold on to it, and at some time something might happen. I feel like Bitcoin has way more use case, which I know sounds odd, but like I can't go out and spend gold right now. I mean, I could go sell it and go do something with it. But the fact that I hold Bitcoin, I feel like it's a long-term investment, but I still can spend and replace. That's not doable with gold. If I needed to leave, let's say something horrible happened and I needed to just up and leave for safety reasons, like my Bitcoin just comes with me. I can cross borders. Like there's just so many different really amazing things that go into it. Sending it to people, like it's superior in so many ways. So for me, the financial freedom aspect really lies in the fact of being fully self-sufficient when it comes to the financial part. So I'm still in learning mode. I've kind of openly talked about wanting to rent a node, and I'm having horrible issues when it comes to internet. And so now I'm just using it as a learning process. I'm documenting everything. Like I'm still working through different things. But for me, being financial self-sovereign will be when I am, verifying my own transactions and doing that. And I'm not there yet. So I'm very much still in learning mode. But that's for me is removing the middleman and having something that the Fed can't just go print more of and devalue my savings. Like every time we hear the printer go, we know that the dollars we hold are worth less. And that's horrible. Like that's a horrible feeling for someone who's just trying to work in life and like be better, right? So the fact that I have my savings now in Bitcoin and have, like I said, even more, I feel really comfortable in that. And I feel confident that nobody can sort of screw with it. Like you can't devalue it. That 21 million cap is amazing. Like it's just an amazing thing. So that's for me kind of what financial self-sovereignty is. The fact that nobody can take it from me. It can't be devalued. I have some long-term thoughts with it. And the fact that if I want to use it, it's pretty damn easy to use as well. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, no,
that's my ramble on it.
A really big point that you made there, and you said it twice, is you have more savings than you ever had before. Mm-hmm. That is revolutionary. Yeah. That is freedom right there. That is fine. Oh, yeah. That is some true financial freedom. How many Americans can say they have more savings than they ever had before? Not too many. Yeah. Most people are, they have more big screen TVs than they ever had before. They're more in debt than they ever before. So that's what Bitcoin gets people into that mindset. Mm-hmm. of savings and frugality mm-hmm. and living off the land and everything that you're trying to do over there. Now, you retweeted something by Matt Odell, who's always got some good person to follow. Definitely don't agree with him all the time. If you don't stand for the rights of those you disagree with, then you don't stand for much at all. Pound that like button. That is
Yeah, that's a good
that
one.
that is, yeah. And you got me aware of that one there, and we're going through that today, where most
Hmm.
people do not stand for the rights of the people they disagree with, and
No.
the silencing.
Yeah. I mean,
The,
they want them to not exist. Yeah, if you don't agree with me, you can't be here. And I think that's extremely important. That's, and I joke about the to each their own, and I have to remind myself of that. Like, there's many times where even on such a simple thing of Bitcoin Twitter, like I was having some real issues for a while there, just completely disagreeing with what people were doing and how they were doing things, and I thought, why do I care? Like, why is this my business? If they want to do that, great. Do I feel like they're hurting the reputation of the space, or maybe, women in the space? Yeah, that was sort of my issue. But at the end of the day, does that really matter? Like that, who am I to tell them they can't do that? So I think even me, who is an individual freedom loving person, still has to remind myself, like, to each their own, to each their own. And I think that's important because it's really hard when you're in a moment when you really disagree with someone to be able to say, okay, yes, I disagree with them, but these are their rights. And I need to protect their rights because their rights are my rights, if that makes sense. And that's hard to do. That's really hard to do. But it's sort of like that do no harm aspect is, are these rights hurting other people? Are these rights, or what are they doing that's affecting others? So I think that it's a balance. It's not easy, but I think it's extremely important to remember, especially right now, because I think we've got such a misinformation warfare going on here. And I think it's vital to constantly be like, okay, I don't agree with you, but I will fight for you to continue to be able to say what you're saying. Or I will fight for you to be able to have a choice. If you want, like, if you're a business and you want people to wear your masks in the store, you have every right to do that. And I support your right to do that. I may shop elsewhere if I don't agree with you, and that's my right. But like, I'm going to support you in that decision. So I think that that's something people are really struggling with right now. I think it's a constant struggle in our society, but I thought that was really powerful. And yeah, Matt's got some good hot takes sometimes. So yeah, I don't know. It's crazy times right now.
the beautiful thing about Bitcoin is that you can disagree with someone so much. They could be your biggest enemy, and they can hold Bitcoin. You can hold Bitcoin. You could do nothing about it. You can't
Yep.
take it away from them, and it helps both of you.
Mm-hmm.
It helps both of you to be
Yep.
holders of Bitcoin. So, yeah,
there's so many people who, like, we have nothing in common other than the fact that we love the freedom of Bitcoin. And it may be for different reasons, right? And I think that's so powerful because there's so many people in this space that I think the only common thread that they have is Bitcoin. And that's bringing people together. I think that's pretty powerful, personally.
Yes, there are a lot of different unique beasts here that you never thought could agree on anything, and they use this. They use the same currency. They've opted into. All right, let's. I said we would. You talked about central banks very quickly. That you were no fan of them, and in my description, I said we would speak of banks. Well, let's bring up a current event. Banks are going to now be allowed to hold Bitcoin, basically, be custodians of cryptocurrency. What's your take on that, and overall banking thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think the only positive that I see personally is that, well, first of all, them holding the asset is no different than, say, like them be able to hold anything for you, in whatever way. So it's not, to me, it's not like they're going to be selling it. Maybe they will, who knows? But that's, to me, not what it says. It just says that they're legally allowed to hold it, which, thank you, U.S. government, for letting people make their decisions for themselves. But I mean, for me, it's like, okay, nothing I'm interested in. I have no interest in somebody else holding my Bitcoin. A positive is that it perhaps, when those sorts of organizations get involved, it will decrease the regulations that we as individuals are seeing. It could help it be somewhat not seen as such a black market thing, which would help just anyone who wants to get involved with it. As far as I don't think it changes anything in my world. It might expose more people to it. I have no interest and will not tell anyone to have your bank hold your Bitcoin. I mean,
but that's
crazy.
the point. That's the point. The newbies out there, the 80%ers, they're used to Bank of America holding all their money. So hey, now they'll hold this thing called Bitcoin for me. Why not? Most people, it's amazing. Most people get into cryptocurrency. They probably don't want to they don't want to take that personal responsibility. That's like one of the final steps. I have complete control over my private key. It's scary. It's scary. So I think banks are going to make it less scary. Oh, I'll keep my Litecoin at Wells Fargo.
Right. Oh man. Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's so I'm kind of torn. Like, it's a good thing because it is exposing more people to it. I hope it helps with some of the like in the US, holding Bitcoin is kind of hard. It's not hard to hold it. That's not correct. But there's a lot of regulations against it, we'll say. And so if this sort of helps open the door because the banks see a way that they can make money by holding people, Bitcoin, cool, like whatever, that's fine. I do think it's important to educate people on why that can be negative, and why they do need to have an end goal of holding it themselves, and kind of like, it's a stepping stone. It's a learning process. I have no issue with people coming in going, I'm interested, but I really don't trust myself with doing this and this. That's fine, as long as you know the cost versus benefit. As long as you know the risk in doing that, that's fine. You can make that decision. But here's where you should end up. This is the ultimate goal. And here's some educational material or individuals that can kind of help you get there when you're ready. That's sort of my thought process on it. So yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people were very bullish on it happening. I get why. I get that it's sort of it's kind of big when it comes to the space, but I don't. Yeah, I have no interest in it. I have no interest in any part of it.
That's a good take. It's not going to convince you like, oh no, I'm just going to send all my Bitcoin to Bank of America. Yeah, exactly.
No,
but
I barely can handle my dollars.
I think you made a good point. It's kosher with the United States. I mean, so they won't bug the individuals as much. So that's a real good take on that. All right, so we've gotten toward the end of the show here, and I always say at the end of the show when the guests are on that they can promote whatever they want to talk about. Anything was left out, any subjects you want to bring up, newbies, freedom. The floor is yours. Take it away, Justine.
Oh goodness. I think for me, the one thing that I sort of push on the newbie thing is that I get where a lot of these individuals come up with their thoughts on altcoins and things in the space, and why it's really important to kind of not bash them, but let people know of why, those are not good. And like I said, I get crap on both sides for this, because on one hand, I'm not bashing all the altcoins. I'm not going to say they're all horrible and, they all need to go away or attack people for being in them. But on the other side, I'm saying I don't see them as money. So I have no issue with people playing around with technology, with earning points, with, experimenting with this, whatever. Do whatever you want to do. But I think it's really important to let newbies know the difference, because it is confusing. When you go to an exchange to buy Bitcoin for the first time and you see Bitcoin Cash, or, you Google Bitcoin and Bitcoin.com comes up, or, like you go to an exchange and you don't understand that you can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. So that price looks really scary. You're like, I can't afford that. But, oh, what's this one? Is that the same? Can I buy a little bit of that? So I think there's different things that need to be taught and need to be very clear, because it is confusing for noobs. I think that happens with time. I think we're still very early. So I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like, I'm not worried about altcoins. I have a real issue when it's the new Bitcoin, or it's faster than Bitcoin, or, like, that's just crazy. You're just trying to use a name that is popular to sell your crap. I don't like that. That's where my line is. Like, I'm not okay with it. But I do think that there needs to be more openness in the idea that some of this stuff is complicated for people. And I think there is a disconnect for people who've been here a long time, where they're like, no, it's easy. It's easy. Well, yeah, it might seem easy to you, but let me explain to you that if it was, I would have been here in 2016 instead of 2018. Like, So clearly there is something, there's something there that stopped me. I'm a relatively intelligent human being. I'm not tech savvy though. I have no experience in the financial district. Like there's so many things that it was foreign to me. And it kept me out of it. So I think there's ways to improve that. At some point, I would like to maybe be a part of that. I don't know how. Currently, I'm just learning and I'm trying to document and share my experience in the hopes that other people will relate to it. I get a lot of DMs saying people do. I get a lot of people who, you know, when I say don't keep your Bitcoin on an exchange, I'll get DMs and be like, well, what do I do with it? And where do I put it? And like, how do I do that? So I think people need to realize like there's still people who don't like, they don't understand it all, but they're interested. And I think we need to be open to that. I think we are. I think there's a lot of openness. I think there's a lot of really amazing people who help and are building things. And it's a learning process. Be kind to people who are attempting to learn. So many people were welcoming to me. I came in thinking that, you know, Steem was the on-ramp to Bitcoin and that's how it needed to be advertised. And I had people be like, well, you know, okay, cool. But do you know about Bitcoin? Like, what is this and this? I had no idea. I didn't know how it was really secured. I didn't have confidence in that. And so people really helped me see that. So I guess my thing is be kind, be welcoming to people who want to learn. Of course, call out scams, but let's not bash everyone. Like, let's not turn into social justice warriors who just because someone's not doing the exact thing that you want them to do and saying the exact same thing that you want them to say, like, let's just not, because I'm not a fan.
I call that the Bitcoin Inquisition. When they send you, you said something sort of controversial about Bitcoin, and then they're like, "You're cut off. We're sending you to the Inquisition."
Yeah.
That's the. I mean, your points that you're making right now is newbie outreach. So you're doing a good job with your feed with newbie outreach. I got a guy in the chat right now, Brian, the UK BitcoinMeister. He's all about Bitcoin for beginners. So hey, this is a space where you could be complex, or you could be reaching out to the beginners, or something in between. So keep on reaching out to the beginners, people. Maybe you can network with a UK BitcoinMeister. Who knows? I try to put people in touch. You know, that's always in motion, and you are definitely in motion, Justine. Miss Hodl or Miss Hold, whatever you want to call her. She's linked to below. All right, dudes. You got a new person on the show today. I'm trying to. Who's who in Bitcoin? I'm trying to show people that maybe you never heard of before because you weren't on Steemit or you weren't watching the Bitcoin.com or not the Bitcoin.com, the Bitcoin Magazine show the other day. Hey, man, best freaking guest in the space here. I try to bring you every day. Pound that like button. Thanks a lot, Justine. I'm Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, Disrupt Meister. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, follow me on Twitter, follow Justine on Twitter. Bye-bye, everyone. This Week in Bitcoin is tomorrow at 1 p.m. Special new guest. See ya.